Hello, I'm Juan Carlos, and this is Bumble and Bumble Education. Today, I'm taking you and putting you in my shoes. I'm going to be wearing a camera that will take you directly into my perspective of the haircut that we're going to do today. This haircut made headlines worldwide, the Bad Bob. With my client's head sectioned with the center part all the way from the forehead to the back center of the nape, I'm going into the hair with BB Prep. With the prep, what I'm doing is just soaking the hair to a damp state. And the reason why is because when you use a straight razor, you don't want to use it on dry hair. You want the hair to be damp. But because I'm going to be in there cutting so much internally and at the same time creating my structure and perimeter, I wet it a little bit more than I will throughout the rest of the service at the very beginning to make sure that as I section the hair and work towards my sections, the hair is drying slowly. The BB Prep has moisture and oil and different ingredients in it that allow the hair to dry slower, but dry also with style. Because I already have that center part going all the way down to the back part of the nape, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that whole section on the left, and with my comb, I'm going to brush all the hair towards the face. The reason why I'm brushing everything towards the face is because number one, I need the hair clipped out of the way of the area that I'm going to be working. And two, it's the best way to be able to find the separation between the top half and bottom half of the hair. By brushing all that hair forward and then loosely moving that hair and that tension, loosening up that tension in my hand, I'm able to see where the hair starts to crease and want to fall straight down. Here's another demonstration of that. I'm gonna brush the hair forward. I have all of that collected, and I'm gonna do one more big brush with my comb, and I can see where the hair wants to separate. Right where that hair wants to separate, I go ahead and let that fall, and then collect all that hair up towards the top. You can see that by doing that, you're able to perfectly find the high recession. Not only does this work on mannequin heads, but it also works on clients behind the chair. Once I'm happy with that section, I'm going to collect all that hair and I'm going to create a nice little knot, nice and tight, to be able to separate that out of my way. I like to use clips that don't create creases into the hair if I'm cutting with the razor. What I'm doing with my product is that I'm using it as a tool, the same way that I'm using my hands as a tool. If I use clips that are way too tight, what I'll end up doing is I will end up creating creases on the hair. And if I'm going for a finished look after I cut without having to use a hot tool, then I'm not gonna want to have to blow dry those creases out. I'm going to collect everything that lives on the side and below that horseshoe section, and I'm going to move it towards the face as well. The reason why I want to move it towards the face is because I'm going to cut the perimeter around the nape first, so I don't need a lot of this length hanging over into the area that I'm working in. What I want to do is take this first section out, that way I don't have to rework the hair forward, unclip it, and have to do it again. Always work with intention. When you work with the razor, you want to make sure that your hand is flowing with the same rhythm as the blade. This way, the services are not only super comfortable for your clients, but they see the professionalism in your flow. Now that I have those areas sectioned out, I can go ahead and pick up my razor. What I'm going to do when creating this structure is I'm going to use soft, short strokes, and I'm going to use long strokes. But because I want strong structure to my haircut, I'm going to begin that haircut with soft, small strokes. Taking my section, I'm deciding where I want to see that guide. And then, since I'm working from right to left, I want to use the heel of my blade. I want consistency with my stroke as I work. And you want to do the same, but since now you're working from left to right, you have to use the tip of your blade. Now that I have my guide in there and I'm seeing where it's going to fall, I actually want to get a little rebellious, the same way that Karen Elson did in the late 90s. No two bad bobs are the same. Every bad bob is gonna have its own interpretation. What I'm going to do, you saw me do a medium stroke for my structure. Now I'm going to go in and do a long stroke. What I do to the left, I want to have consistency and do to the right. Continue with my long strokes, hair before hair. When this haircut was published, not only did it make headlines, but it was named the haircut of the year. As I continue, I'm jumping into my next section, and my next section actually comes above the ear. What I want you to know is that even though this is such a deconstructed look and the rebelliousness of it is what makes it special, you still have to have strong structure. So I don't want to create any type of round shape towards the front, which means I need to over direct everything that's in the front back to continue the progression of that straight line across towards the face. I'm still gonna start back here. I'm gonna look at where my guide is, and now I'm gonna get even crazier. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take my razor and I'm gonna start to really get a lot of this weight out, create a lot of movement. The way I'm doing it is by getting my razor in between the hair, turning as if I was turning the key, and sliding down, removing as much weight as I feel necessary. In this case, I want to do quite a bit because I want my ends to look a little bit shattered. I don't want this to bevel in towards her neck, or I don't want it to be too perfect. I really want to make an impact. I'm taking my last section and I'm having it travel all the way over to my guide. Visually, I can see where my guide is. So to use the heel of my razor, I need to pivot my angle, but stay true to the angle of that guide. That way I continue to have that structure flowing. This is my last section on the left side, so I have to make sure that I continue with that flow. I'm gonna raise it so I get separation from what I already cut, and I'm gonna go in and get some internal movement, create that airiness flow to my cut. Using the heel of my blade, I continue with longer strokes. What I want to do with the section I'm working with here in the parietal ridge area is have it travel all the way back to my guide. By doing so, I'm able to keep that strong structure and not create a hole right below that ear. I'm leaving length and weight in the opposite direction, keeping that structure strong. I'm going to work using the same techniques now on the right side of the head. Now that I feel happy with the way that this is progressing, how shattered my ends are, how much of this movement is starting to happen, as it dries out, it's really starting to come to life. It's not perfect, it's balanced. It's perfect for her, and it doesn't have to be perfect for anybody else. I'm going to begin working into that horseshoe section. I'm going to take the left side of my horseshoe and take pie sections, beginning from the back, working my way forward. I'm going to see where my guide falls. I can visually see that representation. Then I'm going to go ahead and work that section up towards the sky. I come up. Now what I want to do is deconstruct with intention. I'm going to take my razor and I'm going to remove some of that weight internally. Once I have what I want, I remove what I don't need in my way. My guide begins where I visually see, I can see where the hair meets the perimeter. So when I bring that up, I have a visual representation of where my guide can be. I connect the top with that guide using the tip of my razor and cutting away from my wrist. Now I'm going to work from the section that I just had towards the face and grab another section. I grab the next section, elevate that up towards the sky with the same over direction that I had on my previous. Using the razor, I go ahead and remove the internal layers that I want to see. Once I have that, I cut to my guide using longer strokes. Take another pie section. What I'm looking at when I come in with my razor to get that internal movement is I'm looking to the future. I'm wondering how this is gonna live when it falls, how much texture I want to see, what direction do I want it to fall in. So because I'm elevating in a pie section straight up and I'm cutting away from my wrist by creating short to long internal sections. What'll end up happening is the short to long will push the longer hairs out, create movement towards her face. Then I cut that structure to wherever my previous guide was. I'm going to take the right side of my horseshoe section, and before I begin to cut the length, I'm going to section out my fringe area. I have the fringe area sectioned off on both sides. After sectioning out my bang area, I take a triangular section above the eyebrows from recession to recession, and then I subsection straight across from recession to recession. I take my guide right in the center and use the eyebrows for reference. I'm going to be using the flat of my blade to create a really shattered effect. Right below the eyebrows is where I'm going to begin with my tension, slight elevation for softness, create my bang. Then I take the hair that's left on my left and direct that straight out using that same guide and the flat of my blade. Do the same to the right. Take my next section. I'm going to take that last section using a little bit more elevation, and I'm going to take long strokes here, creating a lot of texture. I love how this is looking, but it's almost not matching the vibe of that bad bob. So I'm going to add more spaz to my bang. I'm going to take it and create shorter sections here in the middle, more like a micro bang. Now all the personalization happens. I love that way that this is all looking, but I was doing a lot of long strokes, a lot of short strokes, and I just have to go back in and make sure everything is balanced. I have to refine the art that we just created. This is a good example of an area that I'm looking for. You can see how great the structure is, but in some instances my strokes were a little too long. So I'm taking my razor and making sure that I refine that structure. Because we over directed these front pieces to the back to match our guide, it preserved that length here in the front. No two bad bobs are the same, so if I wanted to leave it this way, I could. However, I want a real bad bob. So I'm going to square that off and give it a real piece of edginess. Now that I'm happy with all the refining, I'm going to take my thickening spray and starting at the root, begin to spray and then work the mids and ends with the product as well. Now I'm going to use my Bb.Straight blow dry cream and spread that from roots to ends as well, making sure that I emulsify the product in my hands first. And instead of just clumping all of this product on the top of the head, I'm going to make sure to distribute this properly all throughout the head evenly. The Bb.Straight blow dry cream isn't just to smoothen out the hair, it's for definition, control, anti-frizz, and to lock in that style that we just created with our razor. I'm going to use my hands as a tool to get a lot of lift at the root. I don't want this to be very polished, I want it to look very rock star, so I'm just gonna make sure I have all the control within my fingers to create that look. Now that I created so much body and fullness using my hands as a tool with the blow dryer, I need to find a way to tame all this down and give it that fashion touch, give it that beautiful finish. I'm going to use Bb.ManeStream, the styling cream, and what I want to do is create separation and bring all of that texture together. Starting on the ends, I'm going to put that product and work it up towards the root. With the rest of the product that's in my hands, I'm able to distribute it through the roots, control the volume, and get back to my ends where I can spread my texture around, recreating the original Bad Bob. And there you have it, the Bad Bob by Bumble and Bumble. It's been a pleasure being with you. I'm Juan Carlos, and to continue this journey, make sure you're following @Bumblepro for continued education and inspiration. See you next time at a salon, in a classroom, or backstage.